Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? It's proclaimed the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to our Wild Card Pick Show. I'm your host, Jim Sella, in studio with co-host Jay Dash. The Pittsburgh Steelers squeaked into the playoffs. That's the most exciting thing about football right now. But we're here to give you some games to help you win. Johnny Parlay got back on track last week. What'd he do?
He went 4-1.
Boom, there it is. Who was it that was afraid he was a fluke? Don't worry about it. He's back on track.
Yeah, he's 43-20 over his last 63 picks, 37-16 over the last 10 weeks. He's 87-62-2 in regular season picks all time. He didn't fare so well in the playoffs last year, though. I think he'll turn it around this playoffs, though. He's won at least 3 of his 5 picks 13 times this season.
Big time.
Yeah, 55-32, man. That is a beast season.
Please believe.
He went 10-7 in picks of the week as well. You went 4-1 last week as well, man.
Woo-woo! I needed it.
27-21 over your last 48 picks, so you're picking pretty well. I actually went 5-0.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, I know you don't care. I was just saying last week, man, I never went 0-5 and I never went 5-0. I went 0-5 last week, 5-0 this week. Ridiculous. So I ended the season over 500. 46-41-1 on the season. Not terrible. Easy, he went 3-2 last week, and JK47 went 2-0. So it was a big week for us last week. Easy's actually 12-8 in his last 20 picks, and JK47's 8-4 in his last 12 picks. So everybody's picking well right now.
If they pick.
If they pick. Well, everybody's picking this week except for 47 again.
Shocking.
He's lost it.
He's out.
But we're going to go in order of these games here. And the first game this weekend is Kansas City at Houston. Kansas City is -3 in this game. They've been winning a lot of football games recently.
Yeah, you almost think that they're going to run into that game eventually where, you know, they should win and they don't. You can't win forever. Would they win 11 straight or 10 straight to end the season?
10 straight wins.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, they got to win the wild card, the divisional, the championship, and the Super Bowl. So they're going to have to win 14 straight games. I mean, the Panthers did do it this year in the regular season, but it's tough. It's going to be a tough feat for KC to accomplish.
Yeah, it's not impossible. They did it with their defense. They have one of the stronger defenses in the NFL. The offense, they're not exciting by any means, but Alex Smith, he takes care of the ball pretty well. Outside of last week, he had 2 picks and threw a pick 6 I seen in that game. But over the last 2 weeks, the Chiefs ran into some bad teams that kept up with them. They beat the Browns 17-13. That was in Kansas City, and they beat the Raiders 23-17 in Kansas City as well. So Kansas City's been playing some close games, while Houston, their defense is on a tear right now. They let up a total of 22 points in their last 3 games, and over the last 2 games, they blew out the competition, 34-6 and 30-6.
Big timing down there in Houston. Bubby Hoyer's back. They think that they're freaking badasses.
Well, look, they had a real rough start to the season, we remember. A lot of people thought they were done.
Especially.
And that was when they had Brian Hoyer healthy, and then he went down. The defense stepped up. J.J. Watt had another terrific season.
The J.J. Twat.
17.5 sacks, I think it was.
With a club on his hand for like 4 games.
So the defense stepped up in a big way this season. Now, they did lose Arian Foster after he came back. He only played 3 games or something. They really don't have a run game out there. But now Brian Hoyer's back healthy, and they're pretty excited about the playoffs, and I'm pretty excited. I think they are a sleeper team in this playoffs.
Houston?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, they could win this game. I'm not saying they couldn't, but Bubby Hoyer's not a good enough quarterback to carry him deep into the playoffs.
I get it, man, but you look outside of Big Ben and Tom Brady, the other quarterbacks. I mean, yeah, if Peyton Manning goes, I'm sure that's who's going to be starting for Denver here in a couple of weeks. But if it is Brock Osweiler, I mean, even if it is Peyton Manning, he didn't look good at all this season.
You love him, though. You said he was going to be beast.
Yeah, I still think he's a pretty decent quarterback. I think he looked good when he came in last week as well for that second half and came back and got the victory against the Chargers there.
Did you see the evidence came out against him in the HGH case? They figured out he was shooting it into his forehead, and that's why it got so big.
I believe it. But yeah, I think Houston's on a roll right now, man. I think their defense is playing better than any defense in football right now. And with Brian Hoyer coming back, I think they have enough out there. They have one of the top receivers in the game in DeAndre Hopkins. And I just think they're going to go out there and not only cover this line, they are +3. I think they're going to go out there and win this game and give Kansas City their first loss in a very long time.
I did see Macklin didn't practice today, I think it was, so he's slightly questionable for Saturday. But I just think Kansas City, they're just playing too well right now. Houston's defense may be a little better than Kansas City's, but I think Kansas City's offense is better than Houston's. I know it's at Houston. The Texans kind of took the back door into the playoffs. They won a couple games there at the end of the year, but it's not like their division was really that good. You know what I mean? They weren't that competitive at all. So Kansas City, they're just the better team. I think they win this game, and then they'll probably lose next week to whoever they go see divisional round.
Easy's going to go with you and say Kansas City, and Johnny Parlay is going to go with me and say Houston. So we're split on this one.
I think you went with Parlay.
But look, these two teams, they have so many similarities this season. They both got off to terrible starts and then picked it up the second half of the season. Their offenses aren't that great, but they got very good defenses. They both lost their beast running backs this season. Jamal Charles and Arian Foster both went down. So they got a lot of similarities here. And I think it's going to be a great game. And I think this is one of the most exciting games this weekend.
Definitely a good matchup.
All right, let's move on then to your favorite game.
Have they always done 2 AFC games in one day and then 2 NFC? I thought it was
Not
1
always.
and 1.
I don't think always like that.
Yeah, I swear it was 1 and 1. And the NFC game was always later because it was usually closer to the West Coast.
Right. This is the night game. What's it start at? 8:15?
Something like that.
Pittsburgh -3 at Cincinnati. The over-under is 45.5.
A.J. McCarron is looking like he's going to start in this game. Andy Dalton did get the cast off of his hand, thumb, whatever you want to call it. It's really up to him to see how much he can grip the football or how strong the ligaments are, after being immobilized for so long. I don't see him being able to play this week. They have been playing good enough with A.J. McCarron that I'm sure they believe they can come in and win this football game against Pittsburgh. But the Steelers are 9-2 the third time they play a team in one season, and that goes all the way back to 1947. That was their first loss against the Eagles, 21-0. Then they won 9 straight, and then they lost in 2014 to the Ravens the third time they played them.
Please believe. I remember that one.
So the Bengals better watch out.
The Bengals, they have a great defense. Obviously, they lost their starting quarterback.
I don't know if I'd call them great.
Oh, they're one of the top defenses in football this season, man.
Well, they're good. I don't want to call them great. I'm not hating them, just saying.
Not an all-time defense. They're definitely a great defense this season, man.
I'll give them good.
Man, that's harsh. I'm telling
right.
you, Cincinnati did it big this season. That's pretty much the reason they've been able to hold it together since Dalton went down. But the Pittsburgh Steelers have been able to stop the run game for Cincinnati when they play. And they do get beat by A.J. Green, but they figured out you can let A.J. Green beat you if you stop everything else, and you can still win that game. Now, I have questions of how Big Ben is going to play. He hasn't looked good recently, but I think that he is going to do enough in this game. This offense is going to do just enough to pull out a victory. Now, the Steelers at -3, a little bit surprising. I thought it would be a little bit closer to even, but I'm still going to stick with Pittsburgh in this game and say they come out with a victory. I mean, they handle Cincinnati in Cincinnati most times.
The Bengals were 2nd overall in defensive points allowed and 7th overall in rushing yards allowed, but they were 11th overall in defensive yards per game and 20th against the pass.
20th against the pass. Well,
Yeah.
Big Ben got to step up this week then because they have no run game because D'Angelo Williams looks like he's not going to play. It's going to be Fitzgerald Toussaint and Jordan Todman. Now, I'm a little bit of a Jordan Todman fan. I think he can get it done if you give him enough carries, but he's no D'Angelo Williams, and that run game may struggle this week. So the fact that Cincinnati has a little bit of trouble stopping the pass, Big Ben got to go out there and use all his receivers, unlike last week when there was 2 big plays, one to Marcus Wheaton and one to Darius Hayward-Bay. Then it was all Antonio Brown besides that. If he focuses on Brown, it's going to be a long day for Big Ben. He got to get the offense more involved. But I think he does that, and they go out and win this game.
I agree. The Steelers and Big Ben, they get almost 288 yards passing in each game, and the Bengals are giving up 248 or 249. It's just not a good matchup to me, for Cincinnati. I mean, the Steelers know the Bengals probably better than anybody, and we've been beating the Bengals at Cincinnati a lot recently. Ben Roethlisberger usually plays well in Ohio. I know he didn't last week, but that just means he's going to come back and have a good game this week. I think they get Martavis Bryant involved in the game a little bit more. I know he had a tummy ache last week, and he couldn't really play. He could have just ate some Tums and stopped being a baby, but, to each his own. But he'll have a big game. I think Wheaton will come up with 5 or 6 catches. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I still think Pittsburgh wins this game. I'm going to give them 31-24 Pittsburgh.
Well, we had a 16-10 score. That's when the Bengals won earlier in the season, and we had a 33-20 score when the Steelers won there more recently. So we had it go both ways. I'm going to say more of a low-scoring game this time around, I think.
Defense wins championships.
Defense wins championships. I think Cincinnati has the better defense, but I think Big Ben is just a little bit too much better than A.J. McCarron. He has more experience in the playoffs.
He's worlds better than McCarron. Maybe not right at this moment playing that way, but...
Yeah, he's not playing like it. In fact, McCarron may be playing better at this point, but with Big Ben has the experience in the playoffs. Even if Dalton comes back, he really doesn't have much experience in the playoffs outside of this wild card game.
Well, he's good at losing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Pretty experienced at that. What about Easy and Parlay?
Well, Easy's going to go with us and say Pittsburgh. Johnny Parlay, though.
Going against us.
I mean, home dog. Johnny Parlay's going home dog all the time.
I'd never pick against Pittsburgh in the playoffs.
So he's going Cincinnati. Well, listen, Pittsburgh can still win this game, but they can lose against this line as well. All right, let's move on here. Going with the Sunday games. The early game, Seattle at Minnesota. Seattle's -6, and the over-under is 39.5.
I don't know. I don't know if Seattle can cover this line. I know they've been playing great. I know their offense is playing a lot better. Marshawn Lynch may be back for this football game, but they haven't run the ball particularly well in the last couple weeks. Minnesota, if they can control the ball with Adrian Peterson and keep the offense off the field for Seattle, I don't see why they can't win this game at home. And, you're saying Johnny Parlay takes the Bengals at a home dog at 3. I got to take Minnesota at a home dog at 6. I know Seattle is a good team, but Minnesota's playing well this year, too. They went out and whooped up on Green Bay last week. There's no reason they can't beat Seattle.
Yeah, Minnesota, they had a down stretch there for a while, had a 1-3 stretch, with their only win being the Falcons in that span. But they are on a 3-game winning streak right now. But it was the Bears, the Giants, and then they went out and did beat the Packers last week, like you were saying. But the Seattle Seahawks, man, their last 6 wins have been by at least 9 points, and their last 4 wins were all blowouts. 38-7, 35-6, 30-13, and 36-6 against the Cardinals in Arizona.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me.
Now, they did lose against the St. Louis Rams in that span as well, so that was their one-down game.
They lost to the Rams twice this year.
Yeah, the first game of the season and the second to the last game. But they also went into Minnesota earlier this season, not very long ago either. It was during this stretch I was talking about. They went in and won 38-7. Now, we've seen this season, Carolina went out and blew Atlanta out. Atlanta comes back and beats Carolina.
Yeah.
So it happens where you're not going to see 2 blowouts in a row. But the way Seattle's playing right now, man, I have to go with them, especially the way their defense is playing. And Teddy Bridgewater, he's inexperienced in the playoffs. And really, their offense isn't that great outside of Adrian Peterson. And he's a little banged up right now. So I'm going to go with Seattle in this game, even though they are at -6 on the road.
I think they're going to feature Adrian Peterson often in this game.
Going to have to.
And I think he has a huge game against this Seattle defense. Yeah, they're good, but so is Adrian Peterson.
This entire season reminds me of back in 2005 when the Pittsburgh Steelers went to the Super Bowl. They beat the Cincinnati Bengals in the first round. They actually knocked Carson Palmer out of that game. Carson Palmer's in the playoffs. They knocked him
out of football, basically, until he went to the Cardinals.
Yeah, now Carson Palmer back in the playoffs this season. But who'd they play in 2005? The Seattle Seahawks. And I think we may see a rematch of that if the Steelers can pick up their game.
I'm not positive on this, but I'm pretty sure that year it was Denver, New England, Cincinnati, 1-2-3 also, and the Steelers ranked 6th.
No, you're freaking dead wrong, dude. Indianapolis was the number 1 seed.
Ah, Peyton Manning, okay.
Yeah. It was Peyton Manning.
Yeah, was that the Bettis fumble year? That was the Bettis fumble year, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Because that was Ben's second season.
Yeah. So we did play Denver in the AFC Championship game. But we played Indianapolis in the
Right.
divisional round. Okay. But we did beat Cincy that year, so F them.
Yeah, but back to Seattle and Minnesota here. Two very good defenses. I think the way Seattle's offense is on a roll right now, though, that gives them the edge. That's why they're the biggest line of the day, and I'm going with them as well. Minnesota at home, you'd think as a underdog by 6 points, you'd really want to go with him, and I see why you're going with him, and Johnny Parlay's going to go Minnesota with you. But the way Seattle's rolling right now, they ain't letting up any points defensively. And their offense, Russell Wilson did it again last week, man. Russell Wilson is a beast. And I think they're going to roll through the playoffs here. I think they are the Super Bowl team.
Going down, Seattle.
Easy's going to go with me and say Seattle. So we're split on this one as well.
Seattle may seriously still win this football game. I just think Minnesota will keep it close.
The last game, Green Bay at Washington. And Washington is -1 in this game.
Never at the beginning of the season, even if you told me both these teams would make the playoffs, would I ever imagine Washington would be the favorite or Washington would have the home playoff game.
Or Washington would even be in the playoffs. That's ridiculous.
Believe it.
We didn't even know who their quarterback was going to be.
Definitely not RG Me. He's on the scout team playing safety.
Yeah, he's beat.
This is going to be a weird game because I don't know what to expect from Green Bay. They have really dropped the ball late in the season, or pretty much since midway point of the season. They were 6-0, and then they've, I don't want to say collapsed because they still made the playoffs, but for a 6-0 team, they kind of collapsed. Would they go 10-6?
Yeah, they ended up 10-6. Didn't even win the division.
Yeah,
Minnesota
4-6
went out
in their
and
last
beat them
10.
last week.
That's no good. It's not the best way to get into the playoffs.
And they lost their last two games, like we said. Minnesota last week, they lost by 7, and they got blown out the week before, 38-8 by Arizona. And meanwhile, Washington is on a roll. They're on a 4-game win streak. However, man, they have played no one in a long time.
Well, yeah.
Listen to their last 6 games of the season. Giants, Cowboys, Bears, Bills, Eagles, Cowboys. That's pretty terrible right there. And really, they only played 2 playoff teams this season. They went in and played the Patriots, got blown out 27-10, and they went in to the Panthers and got blown out 44-16. Other than that, the best team they played was the New York Jets, a team that almost made the playoffs. They got blown out 34-20.
Yep.
I don't think Washington is a playoff team. I think they had a very, very soft schedule.
Bad division.
Had a strong end to the season, which pushed them in to the playoffs, and I think they're going to go out and get whooped by Green Bay, a team that really isn't that good either, but I think Green Bay, they got the experience. They've been here before. Aaron Rodgers has been here before. Washington, Kirk Cousins has been playing great, but outside of that, man, I don't see much on Washington, and I think they're going to go down early.
Well, we haven't heard anything from Eddie Lacy in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and he usually goes about 2 or 3 weeks garbage and then has one big week and everybody thinks he's good again. So maybe this is the week he's good again. Aaron Rodgers, although he's not playing as well as he could have this year, is much, much better than Kirk Cousins. Green Bay, like you said, they have the experience. I mean, from punter, special teams player, all the way up through the organization. You know what I mean? Washington has been in such a flux for years. The owner hates everybody. Everybody hates the owner. The coach hates the starting quarterback that they traded 3 freaking first-round draft picks to get and benches them for a 4th-round pick. It worked out. They made the playoffs, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying into Washington yet. They're still garbage in my eyes, and I think Green Bay wins this football game, especially covers a line because it's only 1.
I tell you what, though, they do play good at home. I'm talking about Washington. They play very good at home, and Kirk Cousins definitely plays much better at home than he does on the road. So that's the only chance they have here. If they do pull this game out, I don't see them going any farther than that, because then they're going to have to go on the road, and they're going to lose.
Believe it.
So we got 1 on Washington here. Easy's going to say Washington. Johnny Parlay, you
like that?
Green Bay.
Sorry, I had to throw in the "you like that." That's freaking Kirk Cousins' roll call or bird call.
Okay.
Ever since he did that, that's when they went on the 4-game winning streak. That's when he did the "you like that."
So what we have here, we have splits on the Houston KC and Minnesota Seattle game, and we have spread majority on Green Bay and Pittsburgh.
Believe it. Now, Johnny Parlay told me Houston would be his pick of the week if he had to pick one of these games. So fans, if that helps you out at all, that's what he would pick. I'm a diehard Steeler fan, so I would pick the Steelers just because I want them to win so bad. What would you pick? I mean, you could pick the same game. It doesn't matter. It's not like it's official.
I think I'd go with Houston along with Johnny Parlay. I really think Houston's going to come out and at least cover this line. I think it's going to be a real close game, and I do think they're going to come out with the win. But even if they lose, I think it's going to be so close that they still cover.
Word.
That's it. Just 4 games this week.
That's all we got. Playoffs ruin everything.
I'm excited, though. Playoffs, it's always an exciting time.
Gotta love NFL playoffs, especially when your favorite team makes it. Fans, if you got any questions or comments or just want to cheer on your favorite team, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Keep checking out the Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Keep coming back to YouTube and clicking subscribe. We love all our subscribers. Thank you for a great regular season. Hopefully we can help you win some money in the playoffs.
By the way, Easy is the one that won the most last season in the playoffs.